Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The spa and spa life is for seek power always, that power within you to do your bigger work in the world. I am so thrilled to have our special guest today, which is the intimacy expert, Allana Pratt. She inspires open-hearted, unapologetic living with delicious sass. Yes, please. Her inspiring vulnerability and courage has landed her a featured weekly column on GoodMenProject. She's also featured as an icon of influence and has been a guest expert on, wait for it, CBS, TLC, Fox, Forbes, People Magazine, and Huffington Post. Our girl gets around. And this cum laude graduate of Columbia University is the author of 4 books. It's amazing. And the host of the empowering podcast, Intimate Conversations. She's also had guests like Grammy Award winning Alanis Morissette, love her, and a certified coach. She's been asked with not only Allana Morissette, but as a certified coach, she was asked by Leeza Gibbons to coach her during Dancing with the Stars, which is one of my parents' favorite shows. They would love that. I'll tell her that that's how many degrees of separation there. Coach her while she was on Dancing with the Stars. And with over 4 million viewers, you heard that right, 4 million viewers on her YouTube channel, she's the go-to authority for struggling to trust again in a harsh breakup. Right? So if you've had a harsh breakup and, what has that been like for you? We have so much to talk about here on the show. So followers can then go from that harsh relationship into having a more hot, healthy, thriving, intimate relationship. Oh, Allana, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I forget all that I've done. Like every day you show up and you serve clients and you put another video out on YouTube and you write another newsletter and it's rare to kind of come up like an eagle overview and going really how far I've come. But yes. This is more than my job. This is my life work, my passion to be vulnerable and transparent and also to be masterful and amazing where I am, just to be real with people, give them permission to stop beating themselves over the head with a 2x4. I should have. Why didn't I? Just let all that go so we can move into what you so beautifully say with this spa power. And I love the spa aspect of the spa power too. Like I love spas. So I like both aspects of
right. And we need both. And it's all a journey. And it's like, there's been so many different times in our life that we have, stood in our power. And there's times where we've given our power away. And so it's so important to just consciously create your life and not live by default. And, I know that you have a morning ritual and some things that you do to really just set the tone of how you're living. So I would love for you to share that.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll start off with my morning coffee and honestly, I call it my witch's brew. It has all these Chinese herbs in it. So I live till I'm 300, but, my morning
and still look fabulous.
Exactly. Today's morning ritual was a little backwards because I started with my manager. We talk every Monday morning and she's on the East Coast. So I get up so she can still pick her kids up from school. So it's kind of like normally I don't go straight to the computer. But I did this morning. But in general, I start every morning with my hand on my heart and my hand on like my lower belly. And I just check in for a second. Normally then my cat Muffin gets on my lap as well, helps me be even more centered. But it's sort of like these statements of, hey, little one, today's going to be a great day. And no matter what happens, I've got your back. And in fact, our world is taking care of us. So instead of, racing off, trying to accomplish something to be good enough, I start off, I'm already good enough. That I might accomplish something might fall apart, but none of that has anything to do with my worth. Those are my accomplishments that come and go. My achievements come and go. People come and go. Money comes and goes. My worth doesn't. It's inherent. So I really take that first moment just to connect in with myself. I also have these affirmations that I read every morning. I also have a vision of what my goal of my life will be in a year from now, already done. And I read it, not like I hope, I wish, but like, I still got this, slap my ass. It's like so last year. So I go all the way out till this time next year and I look back and I read like a movie set, all the different details, like it's already done. And then I start my day from rest and receiving, not emptiness and trying to get. It makes a huge difference for me. I also do my little exercises and my stretches and my push-ups and my sit-ups, etc. Monday, Fridays, I don't work with clients or do interviews. So off I go and I do my paddleboarding or my hiking, being in nature. That's really important. And also sort of, instead of working in the business, working on the business. So more of a creative way of looking at things. How did the week go? What could I have done different? What do I choose at the beginning of the week? That's something new I've done for about a year now, this working a little more diligently 3 days a week with these bookends. I have supplements I take in the morning. I'm almost 50 and I'm realizing that hormones are starting to shift and I need a little extra help. So I make sure I take good care of my body. And then for today off, I put my makeup on and get all ready and I get to connect with incredible people like you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I love that you share this part about you're already good enough, right? It's like the day has already been won because of you just showing up with who you are, right? And there's so much this like having to, perform, right? And there's like these things that can happen. But when we set that intention, right here in the morning, starting off the day right with that is so great. Do you know Vicky Fitch?
No.
So she just wrote a book called Evict the Bully in Your Head, the
Nice.
things where it's like that go on in your head that can, just have you, not be so confident or not be as courageous. And, it's really helpful to really have those foundations. And I love that you do that. And, one of the things that was just brought up to me recently where it said that busy is the new stupid. And it's so impactful because it's like, busy is just like, really, how much are we trying to just move forward? We're not maybe even being productive, right? It's just this moving, overwhelm that starts happening. But when you come from that place of being centered, it's just so helpful to have that happen. So what are some of the things, you talked about, you have a mini version of your My Little You process. Is that part of what you started to share? And what is it that you utilize with that in order for you to, have more impact?
Yeah. I'm sure Vicky's book is amazing with the evicting the bully in your head. I have a slightly different take on it. I imagine that there's all these little Alanas on the inside, and some of them are quite critical, and some of them are quite ashamed, and some of them are terrified, and some of them are a little egoic. Like there's all like it's a motley crew inside, but every part is me. And I refuse to reject any part of me. I just maybe need to help them grow and evolve. So what I know from science is that you can't create or destroy energy, right? You can just change it. So if I'm trying to resist and get rid of a part of me, what you resist persists. And quite often you create your worst case scenario. Yes. So that's my point of view about it. I'm not like right, but this is what works for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I go inside, and let's say there is a bully saying, well, you're never going to such and such, or you're whatever. Instead of telling her to shut up, I go into like this imaginary dark closet, little you. And I go in and I go, oh, so may I sit with you? Please forgive me for judging you, rejecting you, avoiding you, making you wrong in the past. I really thought that was going to make us stronger, happier, more successful. And I see that it's only what you've resisted persisted. It's only made you get louder. So forgive me, I did my best, but here I am today to really understand you more. What is your goal? What is your strategy? What are you trying to accomplish with being so critical of me? Tell me more. And then you'll realize these aspects of self that are sad, mad, critical, shameful are just trying on some level to protect us from being hurt again. They're on some level trying to give us a sense of control in a world that we can't control. On some sense, they're trying to make sure you don't date the narcissist again. Like they're doing their best to help. Now, the way in which they're doing it, we can call that a low vibration. But the intention is good. So when you stop resisting and you start getting curious about these different aspects of self that are actually on your side, and then you go, okay, well, let's imagine as we sit here in the closet of our heart that I am protected. That, that life is on our side, that I got your gift. I got the gift that you want me to be safe and protected. Let's accomplish that together right now in a hug on the inside. Okay, now what? Now what would you like us to create together? Normally, after a few rounds of breathing and visualization and body sensation and letting that part feel heard and seen and understood, and it calms down, normally the next thing it says, well, let's just go out and take over the world. Or let's go out and date, or let's go out and paddleboard. And normally it says something, let's go write that next book. It's on our side, but you can't spiritually bypass like so many people do with this. Like, I'll just do 10 more affirmations and just tell her to shut the book up over there and just pretend I'm all perfect and I'm not vulnerable and I've got it all together. Nobody's like that. Nobody. And I think, in fact, in today's world, to be more successful with the quality of people that you actually want to be with, being real, being transparent, being honest. I mean, maybe not leading on your first date with all of your dirty laundry, maybe like the third date or the fourth date. Okay. But like being real breeds more respect and trust than all being so perfect and masterful. People are like, something's off, something's incongruent. Or if you are only fake and you only tell half the story, you attract the same kind of fake people, the people that will judge you if you're not perfect, whether it's a client or a boyfriend, girlfriend, depending on who's watching here. So that's my little way of being that I believe is actually quite aligned with quantum psychology and physics of how energy works. Right. And all I know is it works for me and it works for my client. And I don't hide who I am or apologize for my existence anymore. And I used to do a lot of that.
Right. I love that so much. You know, it actually reminds me of an exercise I do with my clients. I call it PIES, P-I-E-S, where you are acknowledging all the different aspects because it's all feedback. It's all information that they're giving. And I love that embracing quality that you're doing. And part of what I do is I have them ask, like, you know, so physical is the P. So you're asking your body, like, what's my body telling me? Like, what am I feeling in my body? You know, am I hungry? Am I tired? Like, what's happening? And just really bringing that, you know, present. And then the I is your intellect. So the mind, you know, the mind's always trying to remind us of things or tell us things. So asking them just to, you know, sometimes I brain dump around that, just writing them all down. Like, I hear you, you know, it's like, what's happening with that? Nice. And the E is the emotion. Like, what is the emotion that's coming up, right? And just letting the experience of that going through. And I feel like when you clear all of those different areas, then it leaves the S, which is the spiritual message. Like once you clear those things, you can receive a spiritual message and be able to listen of what that is within you. So I love that acknowledging of all the different aspects that it's not good or bad. It's just, it's all information that's here to serve us. So I love that you have those rituals and you add them in. I just think they're so helpful.
I always knew we were on the same page. I freaking love this. What I've learned from the quantum psychologists that I've studied with is that the brain takes in an experience, just like you were saying. It's an image, it's a thought, it's an emotion, and it's a body sensation. It's lodged in on all of those 4 levels. And when I do healing with my clients, a lot of like old school therapy just does like the thought, right? You know, it just talks and talks, but then all these other 3, what you resist persists, and they grow and they grow. And that's why either it takes forever or you might get relief, but not actual transformation that lasts because you're only operating on 1 or 2 of the elements. So I like that you're going through all of them. It really actually helps our brain to lower the emotional trigger, heal the trauma, and also creation occurs on these 4 levels as well, not just the trauma. So when we create, that's why I do my visualization in the morning. I see the image and I read the words and I feel the energy and my body gets into it. And maybe I go outside in the fresh air so that I'm creating into my brain on those 4 levels as well.
Right, right. I love that. Well, you know, when you and I had breakfast together, I credit you with just really having the conversation around the undercover life, you know, and I really wasn't sharing as much of my police experience and how I was really shifting with that. And you'll be happy to know I just had a weekend where I was teaching women how to protect themselves with self-defense skills.
Fantastic.
And being able to like learn like the 4 levels of power where I utilize that pie as I showed you, how they can stand in their power in all those different areas. So really to look at where are we living an undercover life? What are the parts that we're not sharing, you know, with other people? You know, we've got that public life and that private life, but that undercover life can really trip us up because we're not showing up authentically with who we are. And I love how you share about, you know, vulnerability is the new sexy. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. In fact, it's a free gift I'd like to give everybody at the end of this interview as well. I've created like a little training around it because what I realized is when I was fake, that fake would attract judgment, rejection, having to prove, justify, all that kind of stuff. But the transparency There's nothing to hook onto. People could say blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, so whatever. Like, shoo, I call it my wah-yaw. The judgment comes and you can just wah-yaw, just put it behind you.
Wait a minute, do that again.
So the judgment comes at you, right? And if you resist it, it smacks, then you feel bad about yourself. But if you're like, wah-yaw, and you just put it behind you, that's my,
okay, I got to incorporate that. Oh, wow.
This is part of my dorky, whatever.
It's so fun. You know what, but it also cements things to us, right? You know, when we have movement and we actually, put energy into something, it actually cements that in. So it's brilliant.
Thank you. And I think it's kind of funny, which allows it to be a little more light. Because when someone's telling you you're a total like crazy bitch jerk and blah, 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 it's like it can hurt. But if you bring a little humor, you're like, whatever. Why, y'all? So I teach little kids this too, because there's bullying at school and all this rest of it. So,
right.
So back to vulnerability. There is a strength, an intelligence, a sense of knowing truth, instinct that is only possible when we're not in fight or flight or freeze. As soon as you got your 5 seconds and, you go out of your, whatever it is, prefrontal cortex and you're in, reaction mode, you can't hear your truth. You don't make wise decisions. You can't hear God, spirit, the divine, your instincts, your bodily sensations that are saying this isn't safe. You can't hear it because you're in reaction mode. And so vulnerability to me is the practice of staying present and open all the way. So you got your spine, you got your back, and yet you could imagine like maybe a ball of light coming in the top of your head, making your spine so strong, so much strength and grounded to the earth. But then it softens the front of your body and it opens you up to every bit of knowledge, intuition, intelligence, everything. So you're sort of like a tree with these branches all the way out. That's kind of, for me, what vulnerability is. And in vulnerability, it isn't this splaying your dirty laundry, just like dumping your stuff out. It's complete choice. It's complete discernment. It's complete awareness. You might not say a word. You just might be aware. You're choosing. You can trust yourself. Will this person be a contribution to me? Is this person making my body feel heebie-jeebie and they're not totally telling the truth? Is this what I choose to move forward with in terms of my career, relationship, like all these different questions? When you're in that spine strength, open hearted vulnerability, I call it transparency, honesty with self, you make your best choices.
Right.
People somehow respect you for no reason. Just a glance has the 2 ways it could go, like, don't fuck with me glance. You could do that glance. Or you could do like, I am the divine feminine, and just like sunlight on a raindrop, on a leaf in the jungle, like that amount of tenderness. Just come, I will listen with non-judgment. Like this, you have got the spectrum,
right?
The whole spectrum when you're like this.
I love this so much, because we've been talking about how you can be, fierce and feminine, right? It's not either or. We do have that spectrum. And I love how you make that distinction on that, and just the visual about, having your back and standing in that, because we have that strength, and that there is that vulnerability in, that strength in the vulnerability. Like so many times we feel like the vulnerability is giving our power away, but having that is setting the foundation that allows us to be more part of the spectrum, where we can use those different things. We know those different looks, right? And how you can like walk into a room and people just, they know something, like there's some, charisma, or there's something, because you are standing in who you are, and you can be all of it. And, we either have energy that people pull us towards us, or it's repelling energy, and it all shows up with how we're being. So I love the distinction on the spectrum, right? Because we're all of it, and we can choose which parts to lead with.
Yes, but the choice comes from presence, and the presence comes from staying, in your prefrontal cortex, not getting freaked out by something. So like Mel Robbins, her book, like, what is it? The 5 second, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I got this. Change your posture. So this spine and openness and staying there will actually keep you safe, help you make better decisions. And it does, you're right. It makes you that it factor irresistible. Like, what's up with her? She doesn't mean anything. She's not trying to prove anything. It makes you like a vortex. And then if you add choice to it, like you go to a party, you go to a networking event, and before you go, I choose to have the highest good for all happen. It could just be open like that. Or I choose to meet my next ideal client, or I choose to meet somebody totally in alignment with my values to begin dating. Like you can choose and then let it go. and just walk in and see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, so great. So speaking of that spectrum, we've had all different times in our life where, we've been feeling disempowered, and other times where we felt like fully in our power. So I know that you had incredible journey, court battles and things along those lines. You can share a little bit more of that time when you felt very disempowered.
Yeah, I guess probably a good place to start was my mom was dying, and I, from a closed heart, not wanting to feel that pain, my mind said, just find somebody and have a baby and then you'll feel better. So basically do you have a pulse? Do you have a checkbook? That's fine. Let's get married. Let's do this. Like, I didn't make a good choice, basically. And I rushed into it, and my mom died. And then I discovered he was quite an angry man. And when I tried to leave him, first he tried the crying thing. And then when that wouldn't work, because lots of things that happened, but clearly he wasn't there to support me, right, in our relationship, then it started to become threatening and scary as shit. And it turned into a 12-year court battle where I would get ahead in the court battle, and then I would literally sabotage myself because his hatred of me was so strong, and I was going through so many threats, be it verbal, legal, psychic, turning my father against me. Friends would come and turn against me and have a declaration against me. Just this blindsided nonstop for almost a decade really just shook me to my core, where my confidence went away to the point where I was afraid that he would rather kill our son than have me have him. It was that kind of nightmarish feelings that I was going through. And so I didn't trust myself. When the lawyer said, I need 25 grand by Monday, I didn't say why. I said, okay. And I would just scramble. And it was all based on, he wanted to take our son away from me, physical and legal, forever. It's the worst thing that could ever happen. Right. So I was in my most disempowered, terrified state. And I lost the house and my investments I lost. And I went into $250,000 of legal debt. And I really hit rock bottom. And the worst of the worst, after going on for 12 years, was that he convinced our son that I was crazy, and apparently showed him a bunch of emails that I'm sure I sent in one of my fits of freak out. Regardless, really underhanded, cruel behavior. And my son went and lived with him. And it was a good 5 months before I heard from him again. And now we are back in touch again. But even just this last weekend, he goes, Mom, I'm trying to protect you by pushing you away. He's still, after 16 years, he doesn't even know I'm with you right now. Because if I say I'm with you, he'll freak out. So you're George. I'm out having lunch with George right now. I'm super great. So it's still to this very day happening where his dad can't function if he knows I'm around and alive. So my son, now 6'3", 16 years old, is trying to protect me. And it's the only way he could create peace for himself. Right. Was to push me away, knowing I was the stronger one, the more conscious one, the one who would take the high road, the one that would see the blessing in this, the one that would look for what's right about this. Right. So it's still not fantastic, and I miss him. Right. But I'm realizing the gifts for him to see who his dad is and who he isn't, who his mom is and who she isn't, what works for him and what can he choose as a minor still. Mm-hmm. And what's right about it for me is that there was still a sliver, where my worth, even though I lost in court, I lost this, parents this, friends this, at least my son loved me. And when he went away for that period of time, it was about 5 months where I didn't hear from him when he started to first live with Dad. I realized that I was using his love to prove my worth. And when even that went away, there was no place to go but my knees, all the way. And that was the gift, is that I believe the whole reason I attracted that narcissistic behavior X was because narcissists prey on insecurities. Here I am, this cum laude graduate, together woman, da 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 da. Yeah, but there was a sliver. There was a sliver that I didn't want to deal with. I could just gloss over. No one knew. He could smell it. And that's how, for a period of time, he took me down, or I was disempowered. So the gift was I got to take that sliver back. I got to define my worth based on me loving me, which is back to that morning ritual that I was telling you about. Even if my son, my flesh, rejects me, I'm still enough.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff.
Huge.
When you're going out there dating, wanting a guy's attention, but if he's not a match, even if he's tall, dark, and handsome and a multimillionaire and all these other things, and you really want him to like you, if he doesn't honor you, see you, have your back because you've got your own, and you know that no matter what, you're enough, you can let go of these unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy relationships, unhealthy clients, anything unhealthy, because you found your greatest power of all, which is coming home to yourself.
Right. Allana, this is such a powerful story because, so many times, like when we hear these kind of things, they're glamorized in the media, or that's like, someone over there has this experience. And I think for, women who are listening and I'm sure leaning in, because I don't know any women who have not had a disempowering event or some way that something happened. And it's so important to know that, powerful, strong, accomplished women have that sliver. Right. And can have that in their life. And until they either, recognize it, or they know what to do with it, or create tools to move through it, or they have, people that support them through those things, we can be manipulated in those ways. I mean, yes. I had a disempowering relationship myself while I was with the police department. You would think, here I am answering domestic violence calls. I'm working undercover. I mean, I'm doing all these other things, but I too had my own sliver of things, one, because I had been, divorced, and I wanted to do everything possible to not go through that again. And so I was compromising on ways that I shouldn't have. Yeah. But there's all these things where, we sometimes see it's like, well, somebody who, it's almost like that somebody else has that experience. But when we have these conversations, I think it's so important to bring it to light that, it's across the board. You are absolutely, strong, brilliant, smart, and all of that. And, unless we shift that sliver, it really can repeat itself or have some things happen. So I think it's so important to have this conversation, to know, you can be in disempowering things and to be able to turn it around. And so I'd love to look at, what are some of the things that you do now that you stand in your power, and that you really, I know you have the ritual, but what are some of the things that really allow you to just feel yourself being in your power?
Yeah. A couple of things. First, if it wasn't for what I now teach others in terms of the PTSD, the trauma, the emotional trigger healing that I've learned how to do, everything is going to just be sprinkles on top of an ice cream cone of shit, because this core wound needs to be healed. So you have to commit to doing the deep inner work. There's just no way around it. So that's like foundational number one. Number two, our point of view creates our reality, right? So if I keep thinking my ex is this big monster, bigger than life, poor me, victim, that's a point of view. It's not true. It's not false. It's just a point of view. So when I chose, and I still believe this and live this every day of my life, thank you. You are my greatest spiritual teacher. Thank you. It's, again, that's that vulnerable moment where I got my back. I have grown so much, and I wouldn't be who I am today without you. Thank you. Doesn't mean I'm going to go sleep with him again. Doesn't mean I want to have coffee at all. Like, he doesn't want anything to do with me. It just that in the energetic realm, in my point of view, anytime I think about him, here's me, thank you, gratitude, high vibration.
You can check that box, like, okay, I got that lesson.
Yeah. You are my greatest spiritual teacher. And the lessons keep on giving. I mean, I'm more wealthy. I'm more well-spoken. I'm more forgiving. I'm more humble. I'm more confident. I'm more badass. I'm so many more things because of what I went through. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Little shifts I did in my, getting out of debt, because $250,000 was kind of a big chunk to have to pay off. And every time I looked at it, shame, regret, I lost. It was just it was not only the debt, it was how it dragged me down every day. So I'm change your point of view. What else can we call this? Yes. These are your payments to the best PhD university in the galaxy, where I got my PhD in consciousness itself. Thank you so much. So I just changed my point of view, and you'd be amazed, in 2.5 years, I paid it off.
That's lean. Brilliant.
I lived lean, and I paid it off. And I got clever too, because he took me to, he didn't want to work. How else, now that the court battle's over, how else can I mess with her? Child support, I'll take her. But I'm like, no, I have learned. See, I'm so much better. Thank you, spiritual teacher, because now all the money runs through the business, not through personal. Oh, so sorry. You owe me. Oh, really? So that was a great day. I got to tell you. So the empowerment began, but it began by me taking full responsibility and no longer being a victim. Nobody, no matter what I did, has power over me. And it's my job to forgive myself and to be humble and not justify and really own things. There's nothing to justify if you completely own it.
Right.
And you grow from it. You can say thank you. So these are some of the shifts in point of view, but down in the depths, if I didn't do any of that internal healing, it would just be a good attitude. It wouldn't actually be embodied. And I think the true gift of all of this is I'm not there. I mean, I'm always a work in progress, but like I'm pretty fucking embodied in thank you and moving forward. And my 5th book, I'm literally writing right now, of all that I've learned. And my son, I think in the end, my son is going to watch in the midst of it all. What did mom choose? Okay. For a period of time, she was a victim. For a period of time, she blamed. For a period of time, she hid. Okay. And then she made a decision. And she stopped being a victim and she started owning it and taking responsibility. And she started cleaning up her mess. And we shopped at thrift stores and we went on local vacations not far away. Look what she did and look who she is now. She doesn't talk shit about him anymore. She talks about like he's now the spiritual teacher and now I get to choose. So I'm not trying to coerce him into believing me. I just be me. And in time, I know he will become very discerning and aware on his own when his own, brain catches up and he's able to go, I see it all. I feel it all. I know it all. How do I choose to be about my past? And how can I too have this be for me, not against me, right? No victims in him either. Cause he had a couple of run-ins with 5150 where he wanted to be done with it all as a way to try to get everybody's attention. Can we please stop fighting? And I'm like, well, as soon as the police officer stops knocking at the door, serving me with more papers for another court battle, I would love to be done with this. But
I love that you're the one throwing out the police code. The 5150 is mental illness.
Oh,
so, no, I think it's awesome. It's like, I know you got it. And also when you're talking about have your back, right? In the police department, we talk about that being, got your 6, right? It's like your backside. So it's like, I love all these analogies here. And, part of what you're sharing here is that, we can all have a victim experience, but it doesn't mean that we have to identify ourselves as a victim, right? And there's a really big distinction between having those experiences and how we choose to walk in our life and how we choose to move forward and evolve that and how to look at that. And the changing the point of view is so important, to be able to look at that. It's just great. And, as I'm looking at your space here, one of the things I also look at in, spa life is, part of our power comes from our environment, the environments that we create and how we're there and how we feel in like, our bedroom versus our kitchen or office are completely different. And I'd love to know, what is your favorite room in your home and why?
Oh, I'm a real dork about this. I am like so anal about my surroundings. It has to be a sanctuary. Mm-hmm. And every single item has to give back nourishment. I have literally downsized over the years, and every single piece of anything from that's a Matisse. I actually got a Matisse lithograph. Like that was one of my big gifts to myself when I got out of debt was like, cause I'm an art history major. So that really means a lot to me. So like that. And then there's like a cover of me on a magazine when I'm like 21 years old in Japan. And then there's my cum laude degree from Columbia. Like everything I look at, and then I have this little thing over here. You have permission. Take what is yours. Choose, act, have. So every room is like this. Everything has energy. Yes. And I choose it to nourish me, see me, feed me, honor me, reflect back to me my worth. And I do that with people. I do that with objects. I do that with my home. I used to live in big centers. So I lived in Tokyo. I lived in New York. I lived in LA. So I've had my people all around me phase of my life. Now it's very important. My environment is beautiful. Like I look outside, there's a 14-foot cactus right there. Little hummingbirds come and say hello. There's avocado orchards. I kind of live in the middle of nowhere. It's so important that my environment feeds me, because to get through what I've gotten through and to have the attitude that I have and to serve the amount of people I serve and to be on my A game, not just on a coaching call, but even to a newsletter or a short little 3-minute video to be my best, I got to take care of myself.
Yes.
I'm a piece of work. So I need to really be sure I'm playing at an A game with this level. And it's a practice. Sometimes you have to say thank you, but no thank you.
Right.
Sometimes you have to disappoint another.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, that's why I talk about the environment is such an important part of it, because sometimes that is a forgotten piece about how it actually impacts us and I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, everything in my home,
Huge.
Once somebody told me a long time ago that everything you own owns you in energy, in upkeep, and anything that is there. And so there has to have that purpose. And do you love it? And does it feed you? And how does that serve you in a way? So I love that question. I love seeing the feedback that people have in that. And, you and I could talk all afternoon. I just adore you. And, I know that we need to kind of wrap up here. And I know that you have a free gift for our listeners. Can you tell them about that?
Absolutely. So it's back to this conversation around vulnerability. If you go to my website, allanapratt.com, and then you go /vulnerability, or it's just right there on the homepage. You can just see it when you get there. But it's a 7-part training that really takes you through these different conversations, little exercise, so it builds upon itself, so you can really see the strength in your vulnerability, and that it's a choice. It's a discernment of who you choose to reveal more to, but it's your power, not your weakness. And then I would just follow that by just a little challenge for people. Go through your home, and if there's clothing, if there's something that reminds you of the past and it brings you down, put everything in a room or in a box, and then have your girlfriends over and give it all away. Put on some music. Maybe they look better in that shirt than you do. I don't know. But be willing to give it away with love so it has new life. So you don't have to feel bad that you wasted your money or any of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But make a commitment that within a month from now, it'll be cleansed out and you'll raise the whole vibration of your world. Because I want to remind us that 212 degrees is boiling. 211 isn't. You can go your whole life at 211 degrees and die, okay? It's very small when we get to this level of consciousness of people watching this level of, podcast, that it's just something very small that could change everything. So be willing to do those small things and honor yourself that much, and it could tip you to a whole new level of empowerment.
Oh, I love that you do this. I don't think we even shared this. Twice a year, I do a clothing swap at my home.
Oh, cool.
And since we are like neighbors, it's actually coming up on March 24th. So we'll have to check calendars.
Check our schedules, see if I can come play.
That would be so fun. And then we actually do an exchange of because we're all speakers and we've got things where we like to change our, our wardrobe and things around. And so we do that. And then anything that we don't exchange between each other goes to a charity.
Sure.
So,
it goes to Goodwill. Yeah.
Yeah. So great. So I'll give you some info on that. So
thank you.
Anyway, it'd be so fun to do that. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your wisdom and your vulnerability and just sharing your path and your story. It's so inspiring, and our listeners will be able to get the links that you have on there and be able to follow and connect, and you definitely want to get your free gift on there. We'll also have in the show notes, I have my free gift in there as well, where you'll be able to go to liferesetquiz.com, and you'll be able to just these assessments, these things, these gifts that we have here are in order for you to be just that next degree, right? You're talking about that 1 degree that really shifts how we're looking at life and how it really affects us in what we're doing. And so I just want to thank you, and I would like to thank our listeners. We know that time is the most valuable asset that we have, and we so value those of you who are tuning in, either watching us here visually or in all the different platforms you have. And no matter where you're watching it, please put a comment in here. What's the one thing that you heard? What's something that you're going to shift in your life? Are you going to talk to yourself and set the stage in the morning? What are you going to be looking at in your environment? What is going to be shifting in how you're living your life? And are you open to being more vulnerable, to really be more of who you are? And we would love for you guys to put those things in the comments, to tag both Allana and myself. So if we can answer any questions, we're here to support and just expand the community. And, if you know that this touched you and there's somebody that needs to hear this message today, please tag them, please share it, please get the word out, because when we have these kind of conversations, this is how we lift our consciousness. This is how we actually make our shifts and changes in the world. And this is how we live our spa life, how we really get that power within ourselves to really serve at the deeper level. So until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Yeah.